Fuck! Welcome back to Creepcast. Today we're going down memory lane a bit, aren't we, Isaiah? We are going to actually read. I'm a search and rescue officer for the U.S. Forest Service. I have some stories to tell, aka Stairs in the Woods, which was the first episode we ever did when we were trying to figure out what in the hell the show even was.
Oh baby, I'm excited.
I am pumped. I'm so ready for it.
This is a good first episode to start with. I'm glad you suggested this.
Yeah.
I remember, which is so funny. I was going to say this before the podcast, but I remember when we first started this. We started looking at this, and you're like, should we just read it? And I was looking through, and I'm like, God, I mean, it's so long. Who the fuck wants to sit here and have us read this entire thing? And now we have a 12-hour
story.
And now we have a 12-hour episode up. So yeah, I think we missed the mark just a little on that. But we never actually sat down and read this, and this is such a popular story, and I know people have been recommending that we actually read it again, and I think we need to do it justice for actually doing it, because now I know Isaiah knows the author of this very well.
Yes.
And I think it would be good if we actually just read it. We did an actual episode because I think that's our most I think Left Right Games are it's one of our most viewed episodes, and it's not even
top
the
5.
format.
Yep.
It's not even in the format of how we do the show. So
it's top 5, and it's me and you being like, yeah, it's kind of a cool story.
I think that
there's
it's
some parts I like.
It's so silly looking back at it now, and it's so funny because our commenters were really letting us down very softly. They were like, yeah, so don't do that. You should just read the story.
There's a lot of comments where people are like, this is cool and all, but I haven't read it, so I don't know what you're talking about.
And in hindsight,
good point.
The story is the episode is very much like, yes, it's kind of crazy in this part. This thing happens, and I think that's actually pretty cool. And it's you being like, yeah, I do think it is cool. Actually, it's like such a weird, like there's, I don't know. At the time, it seemed weird because
we were like, no one's gonna watch this if we just read a story.
Well, I feel
that's insane.
I think before,
and here we are.
It was before. It was like, I don't think. I mean, the plan I think was just to talk about the stories. Whatever. I don't think that we ever, when we were coming into this, I don't think it was ever us being like, oh, we're going to read the stories and kind of joke. Like, we didn't know what that format was yet. Because I think we were like, well, we don't want to just like read the story, because then it feels weird to, interject and talk, because no other channel really does that. Usually it's just like they're narration channels and you're there for the story. And then we just start reading the stories and just like, I don't give a fuck. We're just gonna riff and chat between it, which is, what ended up becoming the podcast. So it's insane too. Like we're 2 years in now, and now we're coming back and we're touching base, which I think we were going to do this the first year, but then I think with the first tour we did and other stuff, I think it just didn't line up, and now we
ended up doing Ted the Caver for the 1 year.
That's what it was.
Because that's the
actual
we've talked about before. That's technically the proto Creepcast episode, because it was on your channel before we did this. And then we wanted to do this for the 2 year. Then we had the Halloween tour. So have we missed the 2 year?
Yeah. We're definitely past 2 years.
We're celebrating the 2 year anniversary today. This is our celebration.
It's around. It was in November. We're around the same time. Listen,
it's close enough.
Yeah. Things happen. We're celebrating it now. That's all you need to know. And if anything, it's probably close to the holiday season for everybody when this is coming out. So happy holidays to everybody. And this is our little gift to you. Before we get into it as well, we just want to discuss Zoe 101. I'm not getting into that. But I will say, what the hell was that school that they stayed at? Is it a dormitory? Was it a penitentiary? I don't know. Just want to give a quick thank you to all the audio listeners right now who are listening on audio platforms like Spotify or Apple Podcast and giving us a nice rating there. I appreciate you. And to our beautiful patrons, hello.
Daddy sees you. Hello, children.
I'm going to be back soon with the milk. Is that good? Did you like that?
No, I didn't like that, but that's good, I guess.
Okay. And I mean, without further ado, I'm ready to jump right in.
So there actually is further ado, because you didn't let me shout out the author at all.
There's further ado. While you shout out the author,
if you don't want me to.
When you shout out the author, can I be in the background very quietly singing a song?
Very quietly.
I'll be very quiet.
Okay. So the author of this story. So the author of this story goes on Reddit as Search and Rescue Woods. Of course, we'll have the account linked in the description. This story was written over 10 years ago, and it is one of, if not maybe the most influential story to come out of No Sleep. Maybe not the, it's top 5 easily. Stairs in the Woods have become a staple of like online internet culture, not only in like the creepypasta scary story space, but just online horror in general. One of my first videos on Wendigoon was me going over this story, so obviously it has a soft spot in my heart. Since then, I've reached out to the author of the story. Jim and I have become friends. And then come to find out, the author of this story has a captioning company called Foulweather Studios, who does the captioning for The Amazing Digital Circus, and they also do the captioning for my second channel, Wendigang. So them and I work together on a regular basis. They're really cool. So it's really cool to not only originally know them from this story that was so inspirational, one of the things that helped me get into the space I am, making these videos for you all, but to also know them as a person and to work with them is great. So of course, I'm going to be a little biased as we tell this story, but for good reason. I think it deserves it. So we'll have the Foulweather Studios, if anyone's interested in captioning work, as well as the Reddit account linked in the description. Be sure to show them some love.
I'm a little girl. All right. Well, that's awesome. Well, let's get into it. I'm a search and rescue officer for the U.S. Forest Service. I have some stories to tell, aka Stairs of the Woods. I'm ready for it, man. I remember this was a fun one too when we were starting to do it. It has that very I hate to say it because it's such a fucking, I guess just that not liminal space, but just that kind of uncanny things that shouldn't be there. I know that you associated that with like growing up in the Appalachia area where it's like old houses in the middle of the woods that are broken down. It just feels uncanny. Nature growing through it, and all of a sudden there's like a staircase in the woods from something long ago. Just kind of cool.
Yeah, you come across these old like rodents and stuff, which we'll get more into detail of it later, but there's been a lot of cases where I've been in the woods and found like old hunting stands or old, like, you find a random concrete pad in the middle of nowhere that probably a shed was on at some point, but now it's just grown up in the woods, stuff like that. It's
Dead bodies.
Very
that
unnerving.
homeless guy.
That's why I think the story resonated with so many people, because they're okay. Actually, you know what? We're doing the thing again where we describe something without the audience being privy to it. So why don't we just read the story?
I was gonna say, you also found that dead body in the woods, and you also had that homeless guy with the beans.
You are rewriting history on there. I did not find a dead body. I went looking for a dead body in the woods.
You found that dead body in the woods, and your dad said, do not tell anybody. And there was also the homeless guy in that house or whatever, and your dad said not to tell anybody about that too, right?
I've been looking. I've went looking for dead bodies in the woods multiple times. Actually,
why multiple times?
Because one was the story I talked about in the first episode or whatever, where it was a couple that went missing that we knew,
right?
And the other was for Hurricane Helene, when there was like body recovery in the mountains after the flood and all that.
I really like how you said Helene, Hurricane Helene.
Yes,
very sassy. And also the second time was for Hurricane Helene.
Yes, because you're coming at me with this. But I never found
the homeless man was my dad's best friend, and I did that because of Hurricane Helene.
I found on that one I found bodies, but it was because a cemetery had been dug up, and there were bodies from that out. But they were all bodies people were aware were dead. So that wasn't like a casualty recovery thing. That was just like they're over there.
What are you? Is a zombie invasion? Those are bodies that people knew were dead. Yeah, well, I hope.
Yeah, because a cemetery got like ripped out of the ground.
Oh, because of Hurricane Helene. Hurricane Helene.
You're such a jerk.
Well, me and Daddy went to the cemetery to find some dead bodies. Of course, that was brought on by Hurricane Helene.
I'm not defending you for this one. When you get the comments, the tweets and stuff, I'm not saying anything.
Come on, man. We're buddies. We're having fun. We're a search and rescue officer.
next time I'm gonna tweet and be like, no, he did get banned because of the thing he said about Swan. That is what happened.
You know, I just gotta say I had an emotional reaction to losing the game of Magic the Gathering, and I will not apologize. I refuse. Just the
It's
same,
funny how
just the same way.
all of Twitter immediately made it into a conspiracy about Twitch, and that's why you got banned.
I know. I don't know why that happened.
Can you tell them what happened to your mom?
My mom was contacted by TMZ for whatever reason, because I'm sure it was some phishing website where they thought my mom's number was my number or something. But my mom was like, you know, my mom was like,
I just got a text from someone named Todd at Team Z.
and I was like, I was like, do not respond to that. And she just texted back,
Oops.
Good job, Hunter's mom. The TMZ wanted to see why you were banned from Twitch. That's how annoying it got. Next time I'm gonna be like, yes, it was because of what you think it was over, and also he made fun of flood victims. You should throw that in there as well.
Hurricane Helene.
Okay, we're just gonna.
You
read the
said it
story.
so sassy. There was definitely. I was like, I motherfucker flicked his wrist when he said. I'm like, he had some sass with it. Little whip.
Okay.
Whipping the nay a bit. Hurricane.
I'm a
freaking
search and
Dinky
rescue
Helene.
officer for the U. Okay. Are we getting into this?
No. Yes, we are. The story, yes, we are.
Okay, all right. I'm a search and rescue officer for the U.S. Forest Service. I have some stories to tell. Part 1. I wasn't sure where else to post these stories, so I figured I'd share them here. I've been a search and rescue officer for a few years now, and along the way, I've seen some things that I think you guys will be interested in. I have a pretty good track record for finding missing people. Most of the time, they just wander off the path or slip down a small cliff, and they can't find their way back. The majority of them have heard the old "stay where you are" thing, and they don't wander far. But I've had 2 cases where that didn't happen. Both bother me a lot. I use them as motivation to search even harder on the missing persons cases I get called on. The first was a little boy who was out berry picking with his parents. He and his sister were together, and both of them went missing around the same time. Their parents lost sight of them for a few seconds, and in that time, both the kids apparently wandered off. When their parents couldn't find them, they called us, and we came out to search the area. We found the daughter pretty quickly, and when we asked where her brother was, she told us that he'd been taken away by Bear Man. She said he gave her berries and told her to stay quiet, and that he wanted to play with her brother for a while.
Oh God.
The last...
Oh God. I forgot about this. Oh, Jesus
Forgot
Christ.
about the Bear Man.
Ooh, oh my God. Is that subconsciously was the bear trap thing because
That
our
was the bear trap all this
traumatized
time.
nature from the bear man?
The game was rigged from the start. The last she saw of her brother, he was riding on the shoulders of the Bear Man and seemed calm. Of course, first thought was abduction, but we never found a trace of another human being in that area. The little girl was also insistent that he wasn't a normal man, that he was tall and covered in hair, like a bear, and that he had a weird face. We searched that area for weeks. It was one of the longest calls I've ever been on, but we never found a single trace of that kid. The other was a young woman who was out hiking with her mom and grandpa. According to the mother, her daughter had climbed up a tree to get a better view of the forest, and she never come back down. They waited at the base of the tree for hours, calling her name, before they called for help. Again, we searched everywhere, and we never found a trace of her. I have no idea where she could possibly have gone, because neither her mother or grandpa saw her come down. I love how each of these little segments feel like their own campfire story, you know?
Yeah, but I don't know. Like, it sucks you in to the point where the idea of it is very creepy, but I'm also just like, huh? Like, if a guy was telling me about this, he's like, yeah, I don't know, like a guy got abducted by a circus freak or something like that. We never saw him, and a girl climbed up a tree, and she never came back down. Those are kind of weird. I'd be like, huh? Hold up. What? I was like, you don't have any more information on that?
One a little
Yeah.
bit?
I was like, what do you mean? Also, how did the parents, how did they come to terms with that? Were they just like, all right, well, she's not coming down, let's go. But the concepts are really cool though, you know?
Yeah.
Like, like the girl climbing up the tree, which you just have to assume is like a never ending or like even like she went too high up and now it's like, I don't know, entered a different dimension or something.
Or something grabbed her up there, or something like that.
Something like that is fucking haunting. But then also just the which, you know, the creepypasta thing, it's hard not to just imagine a fucking hairy pedophile in the woods that just abducted a boy. But it could also just be literally like a Sasquatch kind of monster, or like even just some kind of creature like living in the woods just took the kid, you know, you are my own now, or something. I don't know. Both of them are very fun, and you're like, but can I, what happened? Hey, what happened? But you're right, it gives that campfire feel where it's like, you know, well, what happened next? And then your dad, who's like definitely not creative, will say like, no one knows. Or whatever. Like, whoa. He's like, yeah, don't ask questions.
Well, it's also from the perspective of a search and rescue officer who just, like, they don't know anything about the lead up. They just know the cases. They just know what a little girl said.
Yeah.
Or they just saw someone walk up into a tree. So it's like the person narrating's unlimited information. So your your mind kind of makes inferences off of what little we get.
Yeah.
A few times I've been out on my own searching with a canine. They've tried to lead me straight up cliffs, not hills, not even rock faces. Straight, sheer cliffs with no possible handholds. It's always baffling, and in those cases, we usually find the person on the other side of the cliff, or miles away from where the canine has led us. I'm sure there's an explanation, but it's sort of strange. One particularly sad case involved the recovery of a body. A 9-year-old girl fell down an embankment and got impaled on a dead tree at the base. It was a complete freak accident, but I'll never forget the sound her mother made when we told her what had happened. She saw the body bag being loaded into the ambulance, and she let out the most haunting, heartbroken wail I ever heard. It was like her whole life was crashing down around her, and a part of her had died with her daughter. I heard from another search and rescue officer that she killed herself a few weeks after it happened. She couldn't live with the loss of her daughter. I also like details like that are like tragic, but not explicitly supernatural.
Yeah,
So,
well, it can be just
like
how
set dressing.
Even just accidents happen out in nature and how fucking haunting that can be, which is true.
Yeah.
But I do think it's important for the story so far because it definitely leans into where like there's probably going to be some things that are just of nature, like things just happen.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
Not all of it has to be supernatural.
Yeah.
I was teamed up with another search and rescue officer because we'd received reports of bears in the area. We were looking for a guy who hadn't come home from a climbing trip when he was supposed to, and we ended up having to do some serious climbing to get to where we'd figured he'd be. We found him trapped in a small crevice with a broken leg. It was not pleasant. He'd been there for almost 2 days, and his leg was very obviously infected. We were able to get him into a chopper, and I heard from one of the EMTs that the guy was absolutely inconsolable. He kept talking about how he'd been doing fine, and when he got to the top, a man had been there. He said the guy had no climbing equipment, and he was wearing a parka and ski pants. He walked up to the guy. When the guy turned around, he said he had no face. It was just blank. He freaked out and ended up trying to get off the mountain too fast, which is why he'd fallen. He said he could hear the guy all night, climbing down the mountain and letting out these horrible, muffled screams. That story bothered the hell out of me. Glad I wasn't there to hear it.
I want to say I love that being the next story after the girl falling because you are like, oh man, it probably was an accident, but now it sets a little layer of doubt in your head.
Yeah.
You know, like
It's
that.
like, well, maybe there's something up that maybe there's faceless people up on the mountain, whatever that is. Or
Also, a fun
maybe
thing
that
too,
contributed.
an out of season, basically skier that's up on the mountain where it's like, okay, well, this guy has definitely just been up here or got like lost. Like, who knows what happened to even that guy? You know, transformed.
Yeah.
Who knows how long ago?
It's like a ghost almost.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. One of the scariest things I've ever had happen to me involved the search for a young woman who'd gotten separated from her hiking group. We were out until late at night because the dogs had picked up her scent. When we found her, she was curled up under a large rotted log. She was missing her shoes and pack, and she was clearly in shock. She didn't have any injuries. We were able to get her to walk with us back to base ops. Along the way, she kept looking behind us and asking us why That big man with black eyes was following us. Couldn't see anyone, so we just wrote it off as some weird symptom of shock. But the closer we got to base, the more agitated this woman got. She kept asking me to tell him to stop making faces at her. At one point, she stopped and turned around and started yelling into the forest, saying that she wanted him to leave her alone. She wasn't going with him, she said, and she wouldn't give us to him. We finally got her to keep moving, but we started hearing these weird noises coming from all around us. It was almost like coughing, but more rhythmic and deeper. It was almost insect-like. Don't really know how else to describe it. When we were within sight of base ops, the woman turns to me, and her eyes are about as wide as I can imagine a human could open them. She touches my shoulder and says,
He says to tell you to speed up. He doesn't like looking at the scar on your neck.
I have a very small scar on the base of my neck, but it's mostly hidden under my collar, and I have no idea how this woman saw it. Right after she says it, I heard that weird coughing right in my ear, and it just about jumped out of my skin. I hustled her to ops, trying not to show how freaked out I was, but I have to say I was really happy when we left the area that night. Yeah. The bug man, the insect man is following us through the woods and then calls out the ear. This is the last one I'll tell, and it's probably the weirdest story I have. Now, I don't know if this is true in every search and rescue unit, but in mine, it's sort of an unspoken, regular thing we run into. You can try asking about it with other search and rescue officers, but even if they know what you're talking about, they probably won't say anything about it. Here we go. This is it, the Hall of Famer. The big hitter. We've been told not to talk about it by our superiors, and at this point, we've all gotten so used to it that it doesn't even seem weird anymore. On just about every case where we're really far into the wilderness, I'm talking 30 or 40 miles, at some point, we'll find a staircase in the middle of the woods. It's almost like if you took the stairs in your house, cut them out, and put them in the forest. I asked about it the first time I saw some, and the other officer just told me not to worry about it, that it was normal. Everyone I asked said the same thing. I wanted to go check them out, but I was told very emphatically that I should never go anywhere. I just sort of ignore them now when I run into them because it happens so frequently. I have a lot more stories, and I suppose if anyone's interested, I'll tell some of them tomorrow. If anyone has any theories about the stairs, or if you've seen them too, let me know. End of part one.
End of part one, which worth to mention as well. One, this is 10 years old, 2015, which would you say that was the pinnacle? Because what, creepypasta started getting written like around like 2010, maybe 2011, whatever, but it really blew up.
2012, I would say, around the time of like, it was after Slender Man. Slender Man was, I think, the kickoff in my mind, and then kind of creepypasta culture spiraled.
So
off from there.
2015 is probably the peak. So 2015
2015 was when people were like, oh, we can write on these and try.
Yeah.
They don't have to be scary faces.
Yeah. I think it's interesting just seeing a post like this, because this seems like such a, I don't know, I wasn't there, but in my mind it seems like such a new take of like little digestible moments, right? Because it almost feels like, it feels like the book when we were younger, the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Very bite-sized small things where it's very much just like, I heard about this thing happening, kind of like what you were saying, it's just a ghost story, a campfire story, and it's very, it's just giving you the scary moment, but you know, none of the character stuff with it, but it's just the thing of like, I heard about this thing happening and it was really scary, and then like another scary moment, and then we move on to the next one. I love these kind of like little digestible, appetizer sized horror, because also a lot, I mean, even like now the guy, like the woman who was shot hiding under a rotted log, and then now all of a sudden the bug man is like following her, and you just get that one quote of just her saying like, you know, she said he says to walk faster, and then he gives it, and then she even says the scar on the back of his neck, which it's like, how would she have seen that in the dark, whatever. Just really fun. We start off with, you know, things are very brief and quick, but it seems like as we kept going down, they got a little darker and a little more detailed, which I don't know if you noticed that too, but I thought that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think I understand why this post blew up so much, because You just read through a bunch of stories. It has 32,000 upvotes. My word. Is that the most on No Sleep?
No, I think the sex was
Oh, hold on. Top of all time. Yeah, you're right. It's got to be, yes, it's like number 6 or 7, yeah, of all time. It has all these fun ideas that leaves you just, again, like a campfire story. It's like, oh, what could the bear man be? What would the insect man be? Are these the same things described by 2 different people? What does an insect cough sound like? Why did he tell her to hurry up? And obviously the stairs in the woods. I think the stairs in the woods is so effective because, like I said, growing up where I did, it's not uncommon walking through the woods to see abandoned structures, right? So you come across these things and there's normally an explanation. Like the biggest one I remember is old chimneys and fireplaces.
Right.
You'd be walking through the woods and you come across a
stone
patch
structure.
of trees. Yeah, because the entire house was wood except for the stones of the chimney or fireplace. So everything else rotted away or was carried off except for the stones. So you see stuff like that and there's like an explanation. But sometimes you would see something kind of weird. Like I've talked about on the show, I think, when I was a kid, I saw a door in the middle of the woods with like an old brass handle. There was just the door standing up. Like it's a piece of the frame and it kind of leaned on a tree. But from a distance, looked like a floating door. So it's like, that's a bit more weird. You know, why did that get out there? What's the story with that? So I feel like a staircase in the woods hits that right spot of it's clearly weird and wrong, but it's just familiar enough that I can convince myself I've seen it before.
Well, it's entering the uncanny valley, which is why I think people find it so fascinating too, is that everyone has experienced, stairs, and to have it be in a place that it's leading to nothing, get your mind racing that at the top of stairs, there should always be, something, right? What are you walking towards? So having it be out in the middle of nowhere, especially 30, that's another great little detail too, 30 to 40 miles. There's no way they're putting a house in the middle. There just doesn't make any sense, right?
No, not a 2-story one at least.
Yeah, so having it be that deep into the woods, and then also the way that he describes it too, of take the stairs in your house to where even at points, at least whenever I read it there, I even just pictured like more modern, like a modern staircase, and you're like, what? Not even like a really old Victorian kind of, 1800s kind of house or whatever. I'm talking like if it was something that was like, millennial core fucking gray stairs with the black bars or whatever, like that kind of thing. We were like, what the fuck? Like it looks too new, which I think makes it even creepier, feeling like it's not of the time. Like it doesn't make any sense that something that new would be out there, which is why it's just, you can run with it, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, part 2.
Part 2.
Hi, this video is sponsored by our partners at Factor. After all the turkey and stuffing, eating well during the holidays can feel impossible. That's why I use Factor's chef-prepped, dietitian-approved meals to help me keep my eating habits balanced. Have you seen my body? It's working wonders. Factor powers your day, sun up to sundown, with nutritious breakfasts and on-the-go lunches and premium dinners. In just 2 minutes, you can heat, eat, and enjoy. Each week, you can choose from 65 different menu options. You are sure to find something you like. Oh, kind of like a... What is that? And now you can go global with your introduction to Asian-inspired meals. Konnichiwa, like savory Korean beef bowls or Thai-style coconut curry. 97% of customers say that Factor has helped them live a healthier life. And with options like Calorie Smart, Keto, Protein Plus, and Vegan, it's easy to see why. And the best part of Factor is that there's no prep work, no grocery lines, and virtually no cleanup. Eat smart at factormeals.com/creepcast50 off and use code creepcast50off. Get 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for 1 year. That's creepcast50 off at factor.com/creepcast50 off for 50% off your first box plus free breakfast for 1 year. This exclusive holiday offer won't last. Lock in your savings before the New Year's ends, before the New Year rush. Only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase. Offer only valid for new Factor customers with code and customers with code and qualifying auto renewing subscription purchase. Display URL and promo code on screen as this is read. Thank you to Factor for sponsoring this video, and now back to the episode that I'm sure you're really enjoying. This episode is sponsored by Ridge Wallet. Ridge is some of the most durable and stylish wallets on the market. And now Ridge has just taken their game-changing wallet and made it even better. Introducing Ridge 2.0. Ridge 2.0 wallets have the perfect balance of form and function. They're 10% lighter, and are more modular with improved cash straps and money clips. And the overall improved surface design gives it a sleek look. The wallets hold up to 12 cards plus cash and come in over 50 colors and designs, including pro sports and college teams. Yeah, that just happened. And whatever you choose, Ridge has their built for life warranty. If you and your wallet ever get lost or stolen, they've got you covered. If you or your wallet? On top of that, if you were to lose your wallet, the Ridge tracker card lets you know exactly where your wallet is at all times, giving you peace of mind this holiday season when you travel. For a limited time, Ridge is having their huge holiday sale. Huge! Just head to ridge.com to get 47% off your order. This is by far the biggest discount they've given all year. Use code CREEPCAST after your purchase. They'll ask where you heard about them, and please, God, please tell them we sent you. Thank you so much, Ridge, for sponsoring this video. Now back to the episode.
So I logged back on tonight and was blown away by the staggering amount of interest this seems to have generated. First off, I'll address a few things that you guys have brought up. There's been an overwhelming amount of people mentioning the similarity between some of my stories and those of David Paulides. I assure you I'm not trying to rip him off in any way. Got nothing but respect for the guy. He's actually what inspired me to write this, because I can verify a lot of the things he talks about. We do have a lot of these strange missing persons cases, and most of the time they aren't involved. Either that, or we find them in places they have no business being. I personally haven't been on many calls like that, but I'll share a few that I've seen, and a story my friend told me that relates to this. I wonder if that was thrown in as a legal disclaimer. I can't remember how litigious David Paulides was 10 years ago, but I know he's pretty bad now about stuff.
I know I just looked it up. So people who don't know him, David Paulides this is what Wikipedia says, is an American former police officer who is now an investigator and writer, known for his books, The Missing 411, which is basically just like missing reports, I believe.
So Missing 411 is the term that gets used now because of David Paulides' books to describe people that go missing in national parks.
Right. Because he also has a book called Tribal Bigfoot. So it does seem like a lot of this is Missing 411 Canada. It looks like it's all, just like in the woods. Yeah, you're right.
So 411 is like in like a police report, like the number for like info or data or whatever. So missing means like people that vanish without a trace. Which I've covered a bunch of the Missing 411 stories on the channel, like Dennis Martin or cases like that that was in the Smokies.
If it's a missing persons case, are these more of like a true crime thing, or correct me if I'm wrong, I apologize, but do they lean into that paranormal kind of thing? Because it seems like go ahead.
The idea of Missing 411 typically is there's so little information, or like it's an unexplainable case. It could be true crime, it could be supernatural, and a lot of, especially David's stuff, kind of plays in the middle. Like, oh, who knows what it could be. Like the Dennis Martin case that I did a video on was a little boy who was at a camping trip with his dad, his parents up in the Smoky Mountains, and he walked behind a bush to jump out and scare his dad, and his dad walked over to the bush and he was gone.
Jesus.
And they had I think it was the Green Berets were training nearby around Gatlinburg, and they had them come in and search the woods for a month, and they never found him.
My God. How the fuck could you sleep at night? I mean, see him go behind the bush, never. I mean, like with things like that too. Man, God. I mean, like immediately my mind was like, God, was like a wildcat got him, or like, I mean, like who fucking knows? Like, that's insane.
Completely silent off the. That's how most of the Missing 411 stuff is. It's like off the face of the earth. Just there 1 second, gone the next. But yeah, so that's where a lot of the stuff is. Where I say about the litigious is, I don't know about now, but for a while, David Paulides was real lawyery about people using the term missing 411. And I know some YouTubers like had stuff get struck and things like that. So not.
But these
cool.
are real. But his are real cases, though. Correct.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I would like when I cover missing 411 stuff, they're real cases. You know.
Right.
Their actual disappearances and stuff like that.
But I can see. But I guess what I'm saying is
the wording. He's like, no, that's my wording. That's my term. I came up with that term.
So I see. Which I mean, like, I could see people though seeing that kind of book or that kind of phenomenon, and then of course using that as inspiration to be like, oh, like, you know, like almost using that as inspiration for storytelling. Or something.
Sure, like this story.
Exactly.
Like this, Search and Rescue, yeah. But mostly saying that to say, I wonder if Search and Rescue officer, like the author, was like, this is not stealing David's work. Or if it was in earnest, just like, yeah, I like David's work. I mean, he did do good work. The YouTube stuff just annoys me, but.
Yeah, no, I feel you.
There's a lot of feedback about the stairs, so I'll touch on that briefly here. And I'll also include a story. A variety of shapes, sizes, styles, and conditions. Some are pretty dilapidated, just ruins, but others are brand new. I saw one set that looked like they came from a lighthouse. They're metal and spiral, almost old-fashioned. The stairs don't go up infinitely or farther than I can see, but some sets are taller than others. Like I said before, just imagine the stairs in your house as if someone cut and pasted them in the middle of nowhere. I don't have any pictures. It's never really occurred to me to try again after the first time. And I don't really feel like risking my job over it. I'll try again in the future, but I can't really promise anything. A few people expressed confusion about the guy who ran into the man with no face. Just to clarify, when the climber ascended and reached the top of this peak, he saw another man in a parka and ski pants. This was the man with no face. Sorry about the confusing wording of that story. Try to avoid that in the future.
I feel like that was pretty clear, but all right.
Yeah, I guess. Well, Redditors, am I right?
Yeah.
Can't really trust a lot of kinds of
Yeah, I'm gonna have to not give this one an up, dude. I didn't understand that.
You know, which one was wearing the ski jacket? Story ruined. Over. You know what, man? As far as missing persons go, I'd say about half the calls I get are related to that. The others are rescue calls. People who fall down cliffs and hurt themselves, get injured by fire. You wouldn't believe how often this happens. Mostly drunk kids get bitten or stung by animals or insects. We're a tight team, and we have veterans who are excellent at finding signs of lost people. That's what makes these cases where we never find any trace of them so frustrating. One in particular was upsetting for all of us, because we did find a trace of them, but it just led to more questions than answers. An older man had been hiking alone on a well-established trail, but his wife called to say that he hadn't come home when he should have. Apparently, he had a history of seizures, and she was worried that he hadn't taken his medication and had suffered one out on the trail. Before you ask, I have no idea why he thought it was okay to go out alone or why she didn't go with him. I don't ask about that kind of thing because past a certain point, it doesn't really matter. Someone is missing, and it's my job to find them. We went out in a standard search formation, and it wasn't long before one of our vets found signs that the guy had gone off the trail. We grouped up and followed him, spreading out in a fan to make sure we were covering as much ground as possible. Suddenly, a call comes over the radio telling us all to head back to the vet's location. We come right away, because this usually means the missing person is injured and we need a full team to help get him safely. We meet back up, and the vet is just standing at the base of a tree with his hands on the sides of his head. I ask my buddy what's going on. He points up into the branches of this tree. I almost couldn't believe what I was seeing. But there's a walking stick dangling from a branch at least 30 feet off the ground. A little strap thing on the handle then looped around the branch. And it's just hanging there. There's no way the guy could have tossed it up that far. And we don't have any other signs that he's still in the area. We call up into the tree, but it's obvious no one's in it. We're all just sort of left scratching our heads. We keep searching, but we never find him. We even bring our canines out, but they lose the scent long before this tree. Eventually, search is called off because there are other calls that we have to attend to. Past a certain point, there's not much we can do. The guy's wife called us every day for months asking if we found her husband. It was heartbreaking to hear her get more and more hopeless each time. I'm not sure why this call in particular was so upsetting, but I think it was just the sheer improbability of it. That and the questions that were raised. How the hell had this guy's cane ended up there? Did someone kill him and toss that up some weird trophy? We did our best to find him, but it was almost like a taunt. We still talk about that one from time to time. Man, imagine, like, again, the campfire thing. It's like, okay, did he go up a staircase and get up there?
Yeah.
Kill him and drag him up there? Or
The staircase is kind of an interesting theory, actually. Walking out randomly.
that
like,
he
what
walked
the
to
hell?
the top of a staircase.
Got snagged by
Just came
something.
into
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot. There's so many, like, but again, it leaves enough room where all we see is the aftermath. So it's like what?
Well,
got
there's
us here.
always like a extremely like sad and bitter taste in your mouth because these do a good job also by like showing the victim's family, like just that little thing of like she called every day, just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
You know, brutal.
Yeah. Or alternatively, did the bear man show up and hurl this dude into the sky?
Yeah, the bug man and the bear man just fucking suplexed him to the moon.
Missing kids are the most heartbreaking. Doesn't matter what circumstances they go missing under, it's never easy. And we always dread the ones we find deceased. It's not common, but it does happen. David Paulides talks a lot about kids search and rescue teams found in places they shouldn't be or couldn't be. I can honestly say I've heard about this kind of thing happening more than I've seen it, but I'll share one of the ones that I think about a lot that I witnessed personally. Mother and her 3 kids were out for a picnic in an area of the park that has a small lake. One is 6, one is 5, and the other is about 3. She's watching them all really closely, and according to her, she never lets them out of her sight at any time. She never saw anyone else in that area either, which is important. She packs their stuff up and they start to head back to the parking area. Now, this lake is only about 2 miles into the woods, and it's on a very clearly established trail. It's almost impossible to get lost getting from the parking area to it, unless you're deliberately going off the path like an imbecile. Her kids are walking in front of her when she hears what sounds like someone coming up the path behind her. She turns around, and in the 4 or so seconds she's not looking, her 5-year-old son vanishes. She figures he stepped off the trail to pee or something, and she asked her other 2 where he went. They both tell her that a big man with a scary face came out of the woods next to them, took the kid's hand, and led him into the trees. The 2 remaining kids don't seem upset. In fact, she says later that it seems like they've been drugged. They're sort of spacey and fuzzy. So of course, she freaks out and starts looking frantically in the area for the kid. She's screaming his name, and she says at one point she thinks she heard him answer her. Now, obviously, she can't go blindly running into the woods. She's got the other 2 kids, so she calls the police and they send us out immediately. We respond and we start the search for him. Over the course of this search, which spans miles, we never find a single trace of the kid. Canines can't pick up any scent. We don't find any clothing or broken bushes or literally anything that would signify a child being there. Of course, there's suspicion about the mother for a while, but it's pretty clear that she's completely destroyed by the whole thing. We looked for this kid with a lot of volunteer help, but eventually, search peters out and we have to move on. Volunteers keep searching though. And one day, we get a call on the radio letting us know that a body's been found and needs to be recovered. They tell us the location and none of us can believe it. We figure it has to be a different kid. But we go out there, about 15 miles from the site where he vanished. Sure enough, we find the body of the kid we've been looking for. I've been trying to figure out how this kid got where he did ever since we found him, and I've never come up with an answer. Volunteer just happened to be in the area because he figured he might as well look in places no one else would think to on the off chance the body had been dumped. He comes to the base of a tall, rocky slope, and halfway up, he sees something. Looks through his binoculars, and sure enough, it's the body of a little boy, stuffed in a little opening in the rock. He recognizes the color of the kid's shirt, so he knows right away that it's the missing boy. That's when he calls it in, and we're dispatched. It took us almost an hour to get his body down, and none of us could believe what we were seeing. Not only was the kid 50 miles from where he'd started, there was no possible way he could have gotten up there on his own. The slope is treacherous, and it's hard even for us with our climbing. 5-year-old boy had no way of getting up there. Of that, I'm certain. Not only that, but the kid doesn't have a scratch on him. His shoes are gone, but his feet aren't damaged or dirty. So it wasn't as if an animal dragged him up there. From what we can tell, he hasn't been dead that long. He'd been out there over a month by that point, and it looked like he'd only been dead for, at most, a day or two. The whole thing was unbelievably strange. It was one of the most disconcerting calls I've ever been on. We found out later that the coroner determined the kid had died from exposure. He'd frozen to death, probably late at night, 2 days before we found him. There were no suspects and no answers. To date, it's one of the weirdest things I've ever seen.
Jesus. So he was stuffed inside. Do you think he was just trapped? Couldn't get out of the...
No, because they mentioned that it's a place up a rock face where a kid couldn't have gone. So it's like the fuzzy man, the man with the scary face or whatever. Or not the fuzzy man shows up later. The man with the scary face like leads him by the hand, and then maybe the kid dies in the woods, so he just shoves his body into a rock crevice. Like halfway up a mountainside.
Jesus. God, to find that too would be fucking disgusting. Good Lord.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird though. It's like these things where I can't tell if they're leading them to the stairs or if it's like, because like it doesn't seem like they're being murdered.
Stairs are just one of the many things that happens out here.
Yeah. I mean, you're probably right. I just thought in a weird way, it feels like in this unnatural world, all these things are connected in some. I don't know. It's just odd.
Yep. It reminds me, a lot of these details remind me of real cases. There was one case, I think it was somewhere in like the PNW, I think Montana, where I think he was 4. He was with his family and he was out camping and he disappears, and they have a big hunt for him for 2 days. And they find him, I may be getting 2 of them combined in my head. They find him in the middle of like a pond on a tree. And he's alive. He's still alive. And they ask him what happened. And he's like, the cat, a big cat or a kitty or something like that, was with him. And then he was just up in that tree and he couldn't give any more explanation. But he had gotten, I think, 12 miles over the course of a day or so. And there was an episode of Survivor Man where he tried to recreate the path in the same time frame and he couldn't do it.
Well, that's what I was gonna say.
So it's like, how did a 4-year-old?
I feel like people might be like, 15 miles isn't that far. 12 miles isn't that far.
Yeah, try it through a sheer rock face straight. Yeah,
exactly. It's not like it's a straight path. It's up major. I mean, like you'd have to walk. It would be insane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 4-year-old now. So the only theory people make is like maybe a cougar carried him all the way and left him on top of a tree for some reason.
Like, just stay here. You'll be fine.
Yeah. So, weird stuff happens out there. I've heard, dude. So I was camping not long ago and we were out in the middle of the woods, and I wasn't tent camping. I was just on a bivvy in a tarp. I was curled up in my sleeping bag. This is around, I think, 3 a.m, middle of nowhere, underneath the trees, super dark. And I'm going to sleep. And right before I fell asleep, I heard so distinctly a car unlocking.
Ugh.
Like someone hit a key fob, the little click, click,
Yeah.
And dude, I shot up and was spinning around 20 miles from any roadway, right?
Yeah.
Bro, it messed with me.
Can you imagine?
I was like, what would make that noise?
Can you imagine a mountain lion stealing your whip?
Just runs me over with my 4Runner, drives it all the way out to the woods.
Who is that? Oh, whatever. And then they has his head out the window. I think he does a fucking donut and he flips you off with his paw and he drives off.
I'd honestly be like, that's pretty sick.
Man, that's cool. A cool cat.
That's a cool mountain lion. That's the coolest thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah. Holy
Mountain
shit.
lion steals my car.
That was the coolest thing that's ever happened to me. Yeah, exactly. You die frozen out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. Like, you know what? Almost worth it. Almost worth it.
I want to take a moment to thank today's sponsor, Turtle Beach. Things don't always age well, like my chair that died, but some things like Turtle Beach age great. When I was 12 years old playing on an Xbox 360, Turtle Beach was the brand to get, and I'm happy to tell you that in 2025, they're still the brand that continues to deliver high quality sound and comfortable functionality. And since they sent me a pair of their Stealth 700s, I haven't taken them off. These are, without exaggeration, the best headphones I've ever owned. For one, I always had wired headphones because I didn't like dealing with battery life, but the Stealth 700s have 80 hours of runtime per charge. And honestly, I think it may be a bit longer than that. And someone who very last of blur to your phone. The discount 10 really the scripts are
One of those came for a.
now back to the episode.
One of my first jobs as a trainee was a search op for a 4-year-old kid that had gotten separated from his mom. This is one of those cases where we knew we were going to find him because the dogs were on a strong scent trail and we saw clear signs that he was in the area. We ended up finding him in a berry patch about half a mile from where he'd last been seen. Kid wasn't even aware that he'd wandered that far. One of the vets brought him back, which I was glad for because I'm really not good with kids, and I find it hard to talk to them and keep them company. As my trainer and I are headed back, she decides to take me on a detour to show me one of the hot spots where we tend to find missing people. It's a natural dip in the land near a popular trail, and people usually move downhill because it's easier. We hike out there, it's a few miles away, and we get there in about an hour or so. As we're walking around the area and she's pointing out places she's found people in the past, I see something in the distance. Now, this area we're in is about 8 miles from the main parking area, though there's back roads you can take to get closer if you don't want to hike that far. But we're on state protected land, which means there can't be any kind of commercial or residential development out here. The most you'll ever see is a fire tower, makeshift shelter that homeless people think they can get away with building. But I could see from here that whatever this thing is has straight edges. If there's one thing you learn quickly, it's that nature rarely makes straight lines. I point it out, but she doesn't say anything. She just hangs back and lets me wander over and check it out. I get within about 20 feet of it, and all the hair on the back of my neck stands up. It's a staircase in the middle of the woods. In the proper context, it would literally be the most benign thing ever. It's just a normal staircase with beige carpet and about 10 steps tall. But instead of being in a house where it obviously should be, it's out here in the middle of the woods. The sides aren't carpeted, obviously, and I can see the wood it's made of. It's almost like a video game glitch, where the house has failed to load completely and the stairs are the only thing visible. I stand there. It's like my brain is working overtime and trying to make sense of what I'm seeing. My trainer comes and stands next to me, and she just stands there casually, looking at it as if it's the least interesting thing in the world. I ask her what the thing is doing here, and she just chuckles.
Get used to it, rookie. You're going to see a lot of them.
I start to move closer, but she grabs my arm hard.
I wouldn't do that.
Her voice is casual, but her grip is tight, and I just stand there looking at her.
You're going to see them all the time, but don't go near them. Don't touch them. Don't go up to them. Just ignore them.
I start to ask her about it, but something in the way she's looking at me tells me that it's best if I don't. We end up moving on, and the subject doesn't come up again for the rest of my training. She was right, though. I'd say about every 5th call I go on, I end up running across a set of stairs. Sometimes they're relatively close to the path, maybe within 2 or 3 miles. Sometimes they're 20, 30 miles out, literally in the middle of nowhere. And I only find them during the broadcast searches or training weekends. They're usually in good condition, but sometimes it looks like they've been out there for miles. All different kinds, all different sizes. The biggest I ever saw looked like they came out of a turn-of-the-century mansion and were at least 10 feet wide with steps moving up at least 15 or 20 feet. I've tried talking about it with people, but they just give me the same response my trainer did.
It's normal. Don't worry about it. They're not a big deal, but don't go close to them or up to them.
Trainees ask me about it now. I give them the same response. I don't really know what else to tell them. I'm really hoping someday I get a better answer, but it hasn't happened yet.
I feel like by not telling you what would happen if you go up it, it would make me go up it.
Yeah, well, you'd go up and immediately get like particle eviscerated.
Or just so, because also it seems like, I'm guessing, if I had to guess, it seems like each staircase leads to a different area or something, or it attracts something different. You know what I mean? Like, I doubt all the staircases lead to the same place.
To me, the staircase, which the story never gives you a clear answer,
Right.
but to me, the staircase almost feels like a lure. You know?
Yeah, it's like it's just like a little hook dangling there to be like, oh, come on, just walk on me.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like there's some entity that wants people to cross over to join it or whatever, and you need to go up. So it's almost like humans go up on these.
Let me ask
so
you
these
this.
This is what the image will be, to be placed out in the woods.
Let me ask you this. If you were a paranormal entity in the woods, what would be your lure?
Am I like, what would get me personally, or if I was the entity, what would I try to get people with?
Yeah, the latter. Mine? Can I at least say mine?
Go ahead.
Hot dog stand.
Yeah, I was gonna say women. But I guess that only gets half the population. If it has to be one blanket.
What do you mean that only gets half the population? You could be a woman out in the middle of the woods and anybody's gonna be like, oh, are you okay? I'm over here. No, I'm talking about, it needs to be like a random object. Like, can you imagine walking through you're walking through the deep woods.
When I said women, by the way,
there's a fucking
when I say
glizzy
women,
stand.
by the way, I mean explicitly like a goth baddie type.
Oh, buddy,
I'm saying a very specific kind of lore.
I know what you mean.
Right.
I know what's going on.
Yeah, I'm not just saying like the voice of a woman. I'm talking like I'm talking
big,
like the
big
moments.
milky boobies.
Well, okay, all right. I did say
thighs,
that. I'm
fish
talking
nets.
like,
I get it.
when the coyote's like, oh god, humana is like the eyes popping out of the head. That's what I was referring to.
Hitting the table.
Oh,
that kind of thing.
yeah, the whole thing. Yeah. No, if it had to be an item, you said hot dog stand, right?
Yeah.
I think a hot dog stand's pretty good. That would get me in the middle of the woods.
I mean, can you imagine that you're walking through the woods and all of a sudden you're like, a glizzy stand? And also it has all the fixins right on it. It has all the stuff of like, it has relish, it has ketchup, mustard, everything you could want, right? And it smells delightful. That's how we would do it.
Yeah. Well, if I'm a smart entity that knows that would look out of place and suspicious, I would do one of those like the little boxes they set up on trails where you can like, it's like emergency supplies with like food and stuff like that, like beef jerky.
See, if I were, you know, what's kind of interesting, like it's not necessarily as uncanny as the stairs in the woods, but what if you were, what if I evolved yours a little bit? What if it was one of those boxes in neighborhoods, in hipster neighborhoods where people leave books?
Yeah.
It's one of those.
Like a book,
what?
like a book trade thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those. What is this? That kind of thing. You're the book band. You're the book band.
Let's phrase it a bit differently, because it seems that the point of the stairs is you have to walk through them, like you have to go through the portal. So what would you set up to make people walk through an area?
I would have. Okay, so you have to, because in my mind, if you take a book,
They have to cross a threshold.
so you're saying this has to be an actual threshold you have to cross. Mine would be a slip and slide. Enticing slip and slide. And let me tell you, it has all the water features and everything too. Can you imagine trying to not be like, oh, dude, no one's out here? I can just go on this really quick.
I'm not gonna ask where the water's coming from or why it's in pristine condition.
I would say it's impossible if no one else is around. You're like, I'm not going to look stupid. It's impossible. You like a fully operational slip and slide, a tightrope between two trees, like, you know, like one of those things where you try to balance on it. Whoa! It even has the mat underneath it. Yeah, I think those are two good. I think I've given two fairly good ones.
You know what's weird? Thinking about this now, like, what would you have to make people walk through? A random staircase is probably the best lure, because I feel like I have a natural inclination to walk up it. You know,
what if it was a tightrope where you couldn't see the other end of the, like, you couldn't see what it was tied to?
I think I absolutely would not get it. I think if I was walking through the woods and came across that, I'm not touching it. No way.
What about the slip and slide? What about the slip and slide where you didn't see the end of it?
No, I'm not getting on a slip and slide in the middle of the woods. I can't see the end of it.
Right.
Bro,
I'm
do you
talking
want to hike the rest of the way soaking wet?
The water fountains that were going on it.
Do you want to hike the rest of the way back soaked?
I don't think I really mind. I think I'm probably got
Have you
kind of
ever
dirty.
hiked with wet socks? Do you know how much that sucks?
Obviously, you don't fucking wear your socks and shoes. You take it off, you just go on, you're like, wee, on your knees, and you get back, you put on your dry socks, and you put on your shoes. That's what any normal person would do. You
I feel
ape.
like the stairs are the easiest because people just like will walk up
I
the
am not
staircase
trying
if you
to
put it there.
dethrone the stairs. You asked me what the portal would be.
Okay, you
you
okay,
have
I
not
did ask
said
the
one.
threshold, but you're the one that originally asked. I said a woman, and then I said a supply
big-headed,
box.
thick-thighed woman with
No,
fishnets.
you are adding adjectives I did not put on this young lady.
I'm
this
deciphering.
young woman.
Okay, we emphasize that we don't need to emphasize the age. With you were like, but hey, listen, it's not just a voice, fellas. You did say that.
Yeah, because
Hey,
you said
boys.
no. That's because I said that only attracts half, and you're like, no, it doesn't. If a woman's calling out in the woods, and I
Yeah.
clarified, I'm not talking about a woman calling out in the woods. I'm talking about you make eye contact and you do the whole coyote like oh no, and you like run for a second like Scooby Doo in place, and then take off like pew, and there's a little cloud of smoke. That's what I'm talking about, not like a help. Help me, help. Because if I'm in the woods and I just hear that, I am not. Unless I am with people.
You're not gonna help?
Okay, all right. Realistically,
Yeah.
I am gonna help. But we're not talking about a realistic scenario. We're
We are
talking about
talking
a
about realistic.
lure setup.
Yeah, but
no, we're talking about a lure.
Yes,
If
yes.
I'm in the woods
Yeah.
and I hear someone yelling help and I go look and it's just a voice that's kind of spatially calling out from somewhere, no.
But
I would
feel
go
like you
look
would,
to make
though.
sure it's not someone that needs help.
I feel like
would
you
go
would,
look
though.
for someone to make sure it's not that needs help. But if if I get to a patch and I'm like the noise is coming from right here, but there's no one here, I'm leaving.
Well, sure, but I'm saying that
Yes.
it would, because in my mind, at first it's kind of far away, and then the closer you get, the louder it gets to where it keeps luring you in of like I'm close, I'm very close. But then by the time
Yeah,
that
of
you,
course.
but by the time that I figure you know that it's not real, I feel like the thing has gotten you, is what I would assume, right?
Probably.
Much
by the
like-
time I realized I would probably be got. Yes.
Well,
Whereas I can tell
if there's
you.
any levels of uncanniness, I agree. I mean, I would be like, I'm getting the fuck out of here.
Yes,
That doesn't make any sense.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Or
But
if I kept
you
getting
see
deeper,
a woman,
yeah.
if you see a woman, you gotta get all the way up to it before you realize. Is my point.
Easy. All right,
See, exactly. That's my point.
No, easy.
100%.
You're sitting there, you're like,
too
if I see a woman, I gotta get all the way up to it. Hurricane Helene, baby.
No, not like that. No. Yeah.
Hurricane
I
Helene.
didn't like that connection.
And I tell you what,
On that
and
one.
what's even more poignant is also if you see a slip and slide that you would be like, okay, well, obviously I'm doing this, but then there's no way to get off of it. See, that's the slip and slide effect too, is that you're like, wee, and you're like, okay, this is kind of going on too long. And now you're gonna slip and
can't get
slide
off.
for exactly too slippery. Can't move. No way of stopping. Go down a large
The slip and
ravine.
slide in the woods sounds like a very like Pennywise It scenario.
It does. It's too childish, but I will say it would be effective for me, at least. I'm a very dumb man. I'm curious. I feel like I legitimately actually believe that a lot of people would fall for the slip and slide. It would be too enticing. It would be uncanny, but I think that it's so comically, like it's so almost like embedded with our youth that I feel like there would be, like, I don't think that you would look at it with hostility. For some reason, to me, the stairs in the woods, I'm like, that's just creepy because it feels like something has been destroyed. It's like a loss of life around this. A full-blown slip and slide with the arches of like the fountains going on it. I think that you would bypass your normal intuition, and I think that you would participate. I think you would definitely
I can apply the exact same reasoning to a woman.
Okay. All right. Well, we're, Hurricane Helene. We get it. I understand.
I don't like the way you keep saying that
Hurricane
in relation to this scenario.
Hurricane
And
Helene.
obviously everything I'm saying is in respect to my wife, but I'm saying that's the easiest way to get a guy to walk into the woods with absolutely no like credit or thought to what's happening.
You couldn't have said that last thing with more of a fucking lie. I'm saying with all respect to my wife.
Of course, my wife. Yeah, I wouldn't fall for it now because I'm a married man.
The largest wink ever. Definitely with respect to my wife.
My wife. I'm just saying.
Hurricane Helene.
I'm saying that I of course wouldn't fall for it because I'm a married man. But if I was to trap a man, that would be the way I trap it as the
I
entity.
think that we can at least agree that there would be a lot of easy ways to actually lure humans to the woods.
Honestly, dude, put a funny looking stick out there.
Yeah,
or like
what the
something looks
hell is
strange. And
that?
I'm like, what's that? I gotta go get that. So,
That or if you did a thing like we just like if you had like a giant like a big pumpkin out there, right? There's a big pumpkin,
I would
but it's
100%
formed,
go
but
up
it's
to a
formed
big
in a way that
pumpkin.
looks like it has a giant ass, where it's kind of funny. And you're like, doesn't it look like a big butt?
yeah.
There's like a big butthole. And you like look up at it. Let me look at the butt. I think that would lure people in too.
Yeah. And then boom, you're it's too late now. You're in the pocket dimension. Good luck, idiot. All right, that was a good way to burn up 10 minutes.
Oops, sorry.
This is another one that was less spooky and more sad. A young man went missing late in winter, when realistically no one should be going that far out onto the trails. We close a lot of them, but some remain open year round, unless there's a shitload of snow. We didn't opt for him, but we had about 6 feet of snow on the ground.
Damn.
It was an unusually heavy snow year, and we knew it wasn't likely that we'd find him until spring when the thaw came. Sure enough, when the first big thaw came, a hiker reported a body a little ways off the main trail. We found him at the base of a tree in a pile of melted snow. I knew right away what had happened, and it scared the living shit out of me. Most of you who ski or snowboard or spend any amount of time on a mountain will probably have guessed too. When snow falls, it doesn't collect as thick in the areas beneath the branches. It happens most with fir trees because they have a sort of closed umbrella shape. So what you end up with is a space around the base of the tree that's filled with a mixture of loose, powdery snow, air, and branches. They're called tree wells, and they're not immediately obvious if you don't know what you're looking for. We put up signs in the Welcome Center, big ones, letting people know how dangerous they are. But every year that we get an unusual amount of snow, at least one person doesn't read them or doesn't take the warning seriously, and we find out about it in the spring. My best guess is that this young man was hiking and got tired, or maybe a cramp from walking in the deep snow. He went to go sit at the base of the tree, not knowing that there was a tree well, and fell in. He got stuck with his feet up, and the surrounding snow caved in around him. Unable to free himself, he suffocated. It's called snow immersion suffocation, and it doesn't usually happen except in really deep snow. But if you get stuck in a weird position, like this guy did, even 6 feet of snow can be lethal. What scared me the most was imagining how he must have struggled, upside down in the freezing cold. He didn't die quickly. The snow would have formed a dense, heavy pile on top of him, and it would have been literally impossible to get out. As it got harder to breathe, he would have known what was happening. I can't even imagine what he was thinking in his last moments.
Good fucking lord.
Yep. Yeah, that would be, you know what? I'll say it. Not good.
Thank you for clarifying that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Try. Someone had to. A lot of my less outdoorsy friends want to know if I've ever seen the Goat Man while I've been out on calls. Unfortunately, or I guess fortunately, I've never had anything quite like that happen. I guess the closest was the whole black-eyed man thing, but I didn't see anything. However, there was one call where I had something kind of similar happen, but I'm not sure I'm willing to chalk it up to the Goat Man. We got a report that an older woman had faded along one of our trails and needed assistance getting back down to the main area. We hike up to where she's at, and her husband's just beside himself. He runs, well, I guess more jogs to us, and tells us that he was a little ways off the trail looking at something when his wife started screaming behind him. Runs back to her, and she's passed out on the trail. We get her on a backboard, and as we're getting her down to the Welcome Center, she comes to and starts screaming again. I calm her down and ask her what happened. I can't remember verbatim what she said, but essentially what happened was this. She'd been waiting for her husband when he started hearing this really strange sound. She said it sounded sort of like a cat, but it was off somehow. She couldn't quite figure out why. She went a little ahead to try and hear it better, but it sounded like it was coming closer. She said the closer it got, the more uneasy she was, until she finally figured out what was wrong. I do remember this next part because it was so weird that I don't think I could have forgotten it if I tried.
It wasn't a cat. It was a man saying the word meow over and over. Just meow, meow, meow. But it wasn't a man. He couldn't have been. Because I've never heard a man make his voice buzz like that. I thought my hearing aid was going out, but it wasn't. I adjusted and it still sounded all buzzy. It was awful. He was coming closer, but I couldn't see him. And the closer he got, the more scared I was. And the last thing I remember was a shape coming out of the trees. And I guess that's when I fainted.
Now, obviously, I'm a little perplexed as to why a guy would be out in the woods chanting meow, meow at people. So once we get down the mountain, I tell my superior that I'm going to go search the area to see if I can find anything. Gives me the go-ahead, and I grab a radio and hike back to where she fainted. I don't see anyone, so I keep going about a mile more. And when I head back, I go off the trail to see if I can figure out where she saw him coming from. It's almost sunset by this point. I don't have any desire to be out at night alone, so I just sort of write it off and make a mental note to check it out again tomorrow. As I'm headed back, I start to hear something in the distance. I stop and I call for anyone in the immediate area to identify themselves. It sounded and come closer or get louder, but it sounded exactly like a man saying meow, meow in this really odd monotone. As comical as it makes it sound, it was almost like that guy on South Park with the electrolarynx, Ned. I go off the trail in the direction I think it's coming from, but I never seem to get closer. It's almost like it's coming from all directions. Eventually, it just sort of fades out. I ended up going back to the Welcome Center. I didn't get any further reports like that, and even though I went back to the area, I never heard that exact sound again. I suppose it could have been some stupid kid out there messing with people, but even I have to admit it was weird.
A group of men with like a sexual fetish of being a cat or something is horrifying out there. Of them being like just meow, meow. That within itself, that